All right, all right, all right. You're listening to the We're Talking Football podcast. I'm Weston. With me, as always, my right-hand man, Lou. Lou, another week in the books, and we're here to discuss our Week 9 recap. But before we jump into our planned proceedings this evening, a very special evening for us here at the We're Talking Football podcast. We are joined tonight by quite possibly, as I would coin, the hardest working man in the 49er podcast world, the master of all things memes and GIFs, and co-host of the Sprint Right Option podcast, Mr. Jason Aponte. Jason, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Weston, thank you, man, for having me, and it's nice to be here with you guys. And honestly, the king of the memes thing, that really is the one that I'm proud of the most, honestly, more than anything. Because yeah, we could talk football, but I like to inject my humor into it, as you saw today with a few of the tweets that I was sending off. It's just like, yeah, man, like we can talk about football and still have some fun.
I love it. I was just shooting the shit with Lou before you kind of jumped on and we kicked things off. And I was like, most importantly, this guy just has fun while he's doing it. You know, like you don't. What I love about you, Jason, this is not to turn into like a blow session or anything like that, but it's just like,
guys, you want me to leave?
Yeah, is you don't take yourself too seriously, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like you take your approach very seriously. Like you do you, but like you have a lot of fun while you're doing it. And I think that's one of the things I respect about you most. And I'm hoping you can bring that same energy to the show this evening for us.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that. And that's, I mean, at this point, I think that a lot of it needs to be serious, and you always want to be taken serious in your analysis and all too. But at the end of the day, we're talking about football, and it's a kid's game, and why not have a little bit of fun with it? And you should just try to be yourself more than anything.
Love it, man. Lou, you write down that advice, dude.
No, I don't agree with that at all. As a lifelong Chargers fan, there's nothing fun about football. So I don't agree with that.
All right.
That's our line.
Yeah.
That's our line right now.
Yeah. Well, gents, Week 9 was definitely an interesting week. And like you just alluded to, we're here to talk all things football. We had some surprises this week, i.e. the Cowboys getting mopped by the Broncos. You got the Bills in a field goal battle with the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I would call it stunning. Even some other games that were tight and close and went the opposite direction of a lot of what you'll see mine and Lou's picks when we talk about our pick'em section, how well that went for us.
We don't have to talk about that. We can ignore last week.
Yeah. But we're going to change up the format a bit this evening. Tonight, we're going to touch upon not only just the 49ers and Chargers game, but what I'm most excited about this evening is to get into our midseason awards, as we have officially, as of Monday night, reached the midway point of the 2021 NFL season. So without further ado, let's get into it. And Jason, again, appreciate you, man. It's just usually Lou and I bantering back and forth on these topics. So I'm super excited to hear your input in this conversation as well.
Absolutely. And this is a fun exercise as I get to discuss other things other than what's going on in the 49ers land. I promise you that, while I do enjoy that, I enjoy the game of football much more. And there's so many other things going on in the league right now that I'd love to discuss.
Love it, man. And if you remember us for anything, maybe it was just a break from the everyday and you get to have a little fun while doing it. So where we always begin with our hometown takes, I usually let Lou take the lead here. So your Chargers had the Philadelphia Eagles. Our 49ers hosted the Arizona Cardinals. We'll save the worst for last in this particular equation. So, Lou, we'll let you lead us down the path of, how that game went. As always, give me the good, give me the bad, give me the ugly. What'd you take from it?
All right, as always, we'll start with the good, when it comes to the LA Chargers. We predicted last week that this was a get back on track type of game for them, and pretty much I felt like that's exactly what they did. They snapped their 2-game losing streak. In addition, Herbert got back on track too, as he was extremely efficient. He was 32 for 38, 356 yards, averaging 9.4 yards per average right there, throwing 2 touchdowns, added a rushing touchdown. He just was different this week as opposed to the past 2 weeks. He was quick, he was decisive. The ball was coming out of his hand on average about 2.46 seconds, which was extremely quick. So that's what differentiated him this week as opposed to the weeks prior against the Ravens and also the Patriots. So I was really impressed by Herbert making those adjustments and what have you. Keenan got back on track too, because we've been talking a little. He just hasn't been right the last couple of weeks. He caught 12 balls for 104 yards. In addition, I probably said this. I'm not sure when Darren Sproles was a rookie, but there shows some life on special teams. I went over a couple episodes ago that the addition of Andre Roberts and also Dustin Hopkins were huge additions. Did I not say they're going to win the Chargers some games? And that's exactly what happened this past week. Andre Roberts did a great job of kickoff returns. There was 2 or 3 returns that he almost took to the house. He just was one block away. He really helped flip the field scenario for them. And Dustin Hopkins, yes, I know he missed the extra point. All that being said, what matters most, he was 2 for 2 for field goals, including the game-winning field goal. So, as Chargers fans, we will take that 9 times out of 10. To be honest, 10 out of 10. So,
Lou, real quick, if you don't mind me jumping in here, because the biggest thing that I think that you hit on that I personally have been harping on for weeks is, what did I say was the most vital component to the Chargers offense getting back on track? And it was number 13, breaking that century mark and getting more involved in the offense. 13 targets, 12 receptions, 104 yards. That's like, if this offense wants to be serious, 13 has to make the impact that he made this week. You look up and down that stat sheet, no other receiver had more than 2 receptions. And then you look over at Keenan and he's got 12. Like, that's the difference, dude. That's the difference between a win and a loss when this guy's involved.
Yeah, if I was nitpicking, there's still things that I felt like he could have improved upon his game. There's numerous routes that he was running that were short of the sticks, that he didn't get enough depth in them. In addition, I felt like
you're nitpicking.
I am. Listen, I can't. I can't do that. But let's get back to the positive. Last thing. Finally, let's give the offensive line some credit, because we haven't been able to do that pretty much for this year. They did a great job against that physical front of the Philadelphia Eagles. They only allowed 1 quarterback hit. 2 weeks ago, we said their right side, which has been their Achilles heels, because they're starting to back up a right guard and a right tackle. They did a great job. Storm Norton 2 weeks ago, their right tackle, gave up 8 pressures. This week, he gave up 1 pressure. So kudos to Storm Norton for having a good game. And as you can see, when Herbert is decisive and the offensive line gives him time to throw, he's going to carve you up. So that was pretty much for me in the good. When it comes
before you get into the bad, Jason, I know you and I were locked in on a totally different game in the 4:00 time slot, but did you have an opportunity to? I know you're a big component of the all 22 and things of that nature. Were you able to look at any, or have you even been watching Charger tape so far this year to give kind of an input on what you saw in this game?
Yeah, just because, and I know that people hate to hear this, but because I'm so big into fantasy football, I do watch everybody. I may not be able to watch you live, and if the 49ers are on, I'm going to lock into you, but I will go back and I watch you, and I have a ton of Herbert shares and Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. So I was really interested to figure out where Austin Eckler was going to end up in this game as well too. He had a few shots at the goal line to score. He kind of got stuffed. That was kind of what I got from it. And Mike Williams, surprisingly, wasn't somebody who popped off, because Philly's defense is ripe for the picking at points. So I did like it, the fact that Keenan Allen was involved a lot more. He is the engine of this offense as well too. But I feel like there's still a way to get this offense rolling in a better direction too, where it can be a little bit more of other people with Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's got to be your guy when you got to have it, money downs and everything as well too. But I think Mike Williams is a little bit more banged up than he's leading on a little bit, right? Because I remember vividly that one play at the goal line where Herbert steps back and he threw it right to Williams on the goal line, and it just went through his hands. It was just a little bit off, but I think that shoulder's bothering him a little bit more than he's leading on. So if he can get right, and if Eckler, can just be as involved as he is all the time, because he will be, because he's a stud, man. I mean, for a little guy, he takes a lot of punishment, and you guys use him a lot. I still think that there's another gear to this offense, and I think that that's what should make you guys excited, because Herbert did play well. That rushing touchdown was really big. I thought that was a play where everything was covered up and he made a play, and that's what makes the kid so special. But there is that extra gear to this offense that you guys can unlock, which right now, obviously you want to be playing your best football in November, but if you can get that rolling going into December, then that's when you become the hot team, and that's when the Chargers become more dangerous.
Yeah. Getting back to that Mike Williams, we were saying a couple of weeks ago, all the Chargers skill position players are unfortunately infamous, known for their drop passes. Keenan has a bunch of drop passes this year, I think around 6. Mike Williams is right behind him with 5. Jared Cook is like second among tight ends in drop passes. So unfortunately, I don't know what's going on there. It's more concentration. And it didn't help with Mike Williams, but Darius Slay was covering him all game. They matched
Big
Slay
play,
up.
Slay.
Yeah, big play Slay on Mike Williams. So I think that has something to do with it because he's pretty damn good, Darius Slay.
All right, Lou, get into the bad because I know we're itching to get in and quickly get out of the 49er talk. So that leaves us with more time to spend on all the other topics tonight. So hit me with the bad from the Chargers-Eagles game.
Okay. My first bad observation was more of the fourth down, not going for it, but it's more of the execution, the calls that they were pretty much running when it comes to going for it. So, for example, the first one they went for and they missed is when they drove 98 yards down the field. I didn't mind them going for it because when you're at your own 2-yard line, your first thought process is, "Hey,
I'm punting.
Just get us out of the back, the shadow of our goalpost."
Yep.
Then your next process is, okay, let's try to change the field position right now. So the fact that they were playing on house money, so I didn't mind them going for it. It's just the fact that I thought once again, Keenan Allen, the route that he ran did not get enough depth to cross the plane, and I thought that was an issue right there. So it's more of the execution of it. The second attempt, I'll tell you right now, I fucking lost it. My daughter was like, shocked that when I was yelling. All right, so it was 4th and 2, and they ran a toss to the left with Joshua Kelly. I'm not sure if you know who Joshua Kelly is, but let me tell you about Joshua Kelly. He's not big, he's not strong, he's not fast. All right. So what they did is they ran a toss to Joshua Kelly on the left-hand side. They've done this 4 times now this year, and guess what happened? All 4 times they've done this, this outside run with Joshua Kelly. He's gotten stuck because he doesn't have enough speed to get to the outside. So they need to stop doing that. I was livid when it comes to that's the play you're calling. I'd rather just run up the gut, right behind Filer and Lindsley. So it's more of the execution. It was not about them going for it and not getting it. It's like, really, Lombardi? Those are plays you're calling? So that was my first gripe I had with them. And second, I'm going to apologize to all the millions of listeners that we have, but you're going to be hearing me for the next 9 weeks like a broken record saying, God damn, this run defense is awful. They made Jordan Howard and Boston Scott look like Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams from back in the day with the Panthers. Collectively, the Eagles ran 39 times for 176 yards and averaged 4.5 yards per carry. Now, let me tell you why this has been a huge issue for the Chargers, all right? On average, teams are averaging about 5-6 yards a carry on first down with to the Chargers. So now you're talking about second and 3, 2nd and 4, right? The issue is, even if you do stop them, stop the opposing offense at 2nd and 3 and 2nd and 4, it's still 3rd down and 3, 3rd down and 4. It's extremely manageable. So I've been complaining all year that their pass rush is not getting there. It's not getting there because the 3rd down is not 3rd and 8, it's 3rd and 7. So they need to do a better job. I love Brandon Staley, the person. I love Brandon Staley, the mind and everything like that. But I feel like he's being a little stubborn because with his too high safety look, he needs to start dropping Derwin James into the box more so they can minimize those rushes on first down to second and to make it 2nd and 7, have a fighting chance on 3rd down. That's a particular reason why they have no pass rush, on 3rd down.
Yeah. So 2 quick points on that, right? So the first thing I think is a huge thing because I think I see this all the time from my team. It's 2nd and 3, which doesn't just become even if they throw an incompletion, it's 3rd and 3. In this NFL, 4th and 3, people are going for it, right? So when you're at 2nd and 3, 3rd and 3, 4th, you're giving them basically an extra down to accumulate that, and that becomes tougher to overcome. But how I would summarize this for you, Lou, is a win is a win.
Of course.
In a very tight AFC West, a win is a win. And you know what? You found yet another way to win. Not against a great team, albeit, right? But you went on the East Coast. You won in a tight ball game. You saw your superstars do superstar type things, which we haven't seen in a couple weeks. To me, that just builds momentum, right? Like going into this week's game. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you have a tough Minnesota Viking team coming in that I think is better than their record shows. So like anything you could do to build confidence going up against a tough opponent. I mean, all opponents are tough. This is the NFL. We saw this weekend. Like That's my biggest takeaway is a win, because I don't really know what that feels like right now.
Last thing, and then we can get on. I'll tell you right now, for last like 6 years, the Chargers always lost pretty. I've always said that. They've always lost pretty. I rather lose. I mean, I'd rather win ugly than lose pretty, because I've
100%.
seen that. I've seen that before. So I don't mind. I don't mind. Winning ugly.
All right. So thank you for that recap. Let's get into the debacle that was the
Speaking
49ers.
of ugly.
Yeah, right. Was the 49ers against a freshman squad of the Arizona Cardinals that basically looked like an English Premier League soccer team playing an MLS soccer team when all was said and done. So, Jason, this is normally where I go on my rant. I'm not sure if you've ever, given us more than 15 minutes listening to us before, but since you're kind enough to join us tonight, I'm going to start us with one line, and then I'm going to pass it over to you because I want to get your thoughts. I normally go bad, good when I'm talking about the 49er. So when I'm summarizing the bad, I say all of it, literally all of what I saw. And I have some points that I'll throw in for clarity, because I do think there was one or two things that I try to take away from every game. Listen, my wife tells me I'm far more attractive when I'm a positive person, and this podcast has turned me into a negative person. So I'm trying to turn over a new leaf. So I'll let you be negative, sir, on my behalf, and I can just smile while you're doing it. So tell me what we saw this weekend, because I still don't know.
Bunch of bullshit. I mean, honestly, look, all right, no, seriously. I mean, this was putrid in this regard. Obviously, it's really easy to get wrapped up. Okay, Kyler Murray's not going to play. Hopkins is not going to play. AJ Green's not going to play. JJ Watt's not going to play. You lose Chase Edmonds on the second play of the game, so you're literally down all of your skill position players, and Colt McCoy comes walking in. So it's easy to get wrapped up and say, oh, man, easy win, right? I tried to throw a little bit of caution out there, because if you remember, Colt McCoy last year as a New York Giant went into Seattle and beat them. And he is a guy, when he's asked to spot start one game, can execute. And this is what I had been throwing as caution. Like, yes, the 49ers should win this game. I don't see the path to Arizona winning this game. But this is not something that you can dismiss and just say automatically, okay, this is a win, because Colt McCoy is very prepared. Two things that I learned in this game. One, Cliff Kingsbury really ran laps around DeMeco Ryans in this game. He really did. I mean, just out of position. They killed them with the screen game. You just ran right at Nick Bosa. They did everything right. They executed. They looked like the team that everybody thinks the San Francisco 49ers are. And the San Francisco 49ers have far bigger problems right now than anybody could have imagined. If the 49ers would have lost this game 31-17 and Kyler Murray and all those guys were on the field, you take that and you just say, hey, they were the better team. To lose in this fashion, penalties, be out, fumbles, execution. This is not a good football team right now. I'm sorry. And the reason that I can say that is we're in week 10 now, and the 49ers have about 6 quarters of football that have been good. 6 quarters. And 3 of them are in week 1 against the Detroit Lions. That's not a good football team. Nope. So anybody who sits here and tries to tell you that they're a good football team, they are not. They are not right now. It is time to face facts. Now, the discussion changes after this game as to not only are you not good, what do you do going forward, because they're in no man's land. All right, here's the positives real quick. George Kittle's still really good at football. Brandon Ayuk is really good at football as well, too. Fumbles aside for the both of them. Jimmy Garoppolo played fine in this game. Fine. He was nowhere near the reason that this team lost. Eric Armstead looks really good, shockingly, when you play him inside. Who would have known? Twitter GMs around the world take your victory lap. Look at that. When he plays on the inside, he plays very well. Other than that, this team has not put together a complete game. Either in one game, the defense shows up and the offense doesn't, or the offense shows up and the defense doesn't. It's just not working right now. The Josh Norman thing was a microcosm of what's been going on with this team, where not executing, not holding their head. And that's the thing that really gets to me, is veterans not keeping their cool. Nobody's executing. So how do you fix it? I'm tired of hearing about you need to execute better. We know that. How are you fixing it? Right now, it is not good in 49er land. And look who's peeking into your building on Monday. A very angry Los Angeles Rams team, who also was shockingly knocked off on national television. Wild week, but this one was the most shocking outcome out of all of them. And maybe the Bills game is probably the most shocking outcome. But when you look at who was on Arizona's side, the 49ers, this is the lowest point of the Shanahan era. This was Jim Tom Sula, Chip Kelly-esque type loss. And I guess that's my rant.
At home, by the way,
At home.
nonetheless. At home.
Well, we haven't won a game in almost 2 years at home. So this is another reality that we're faced with.
Do you think Arizona will let us play their games, play our home games there again?
I mean, if we can sniff the playoffs, right? I'm sure they'll take the extra revenue, no worries, right? And we played much better there. And for whatever reason, we're much better. Can we just play every game on the East Coast in the 1 o'clock time slot? Because that just seems to be where we play our best football. Literally year over year over year. So I agree with so much of what you said. But here's my conundrum in the NFL, and this has proven itself not just with Colt McCoy, but time and time again. When you sleep on a backup quarterback in a spot start, they're gonna creep up on you no matter what. Mike White, right? Like looked like the best quarterback in the NFL on a spot start. Remember Nick Mullins?
He is, by the way. It's a shame they got hurt.
Do you remember Nick Mullins' first start as a San Francisco 49er quarterback? Oh my God, right? We're all talking about this is the coming of Brett Favre from, Southern Missouri, whatever. Like it's you sleep on they're in the NFL for a reason, right? And I always say that a team is only as good as their backup quarterback. And the Arizona Cardinals just showed me that they're a really good football team because they didn't have, you talk about depth. Now, I think some of it is lack of execution on our ends, because you talked about the George Kittle fumble, you talked about the Brandon Ayuk fumble. Those were in inopportune spots, right? Where changes the game flow, where, the talk of the Twitter town in 49ers world was, why do we get away from the run? Why you get away from the run? Well, when you spot a team 17 fucking points, you get away from the run, right? Like it's just a totally different ball game where if you're handing off, like Ayuk doesn't fumble that ball, you bet your ass there's probably 3 handoffs in a row down there, right? Like right after that Kittle play, if he just goes down after a 25, 26-yard pickup, the next play, I'll guarantee you it's a toss outside, right? Or it's outside the tackles. And Elijah Mitchell has proven that he is a steal in this draft. Like this guy fits what we want to do, and he runs fast and hard, and he's physical. And you look at all of his yards, they're all after contact, and we are a yak-driven offense, right? Like, whether it's yards after catch or yards after contact, we exuberate yak. One thing that continues to plague me here, Jason, is just the week after week slow starts. Why I'm bothered by this, and I read just like everybody else. I do not subscribe to that. This starting slow or fast falls on the coaches. Listen, every NFL coach has a scripted first 15, sometimes even a scripted first 30. Those are the plays that you focus on the most at practice. To me, it comes down to execution. This is a performance-driven league, and players get paid to play. This is not Pop Warner. This is not high school. The coach doesn't need to be the one to pep you up and get your blood flowing. That's for your veteran leaders. That's for Fred Warner. Remember Patrick Willis, what he would do on that sideline and pull everybody and get that blood flowing? Like as fans, I'd watch that hype. And this team is missing that, right? Like that is what this team is missing. And that's what, to me, is contributing to flat starts. There's no urgency. Drake Kirkpatrick getting trucked by Ito Benjamin perfectly summarized this game. He literally got steamrolled, and we got steamrolled in every facet of this game. Now, if you look at the stat line, you'd be like, hey, Jimmy played pretty well. And I'm the first to admit, Jimmy did not lose this football game for us. He is not to blame. He is not to fault. He moved the ball well. He was efficient. 1 turnover, end of the game, didn't take sacks, did some things really, really well. But you and I both watch all 22. And when you turn it on, you see it's still the same misreads, misprogressions, leaving people wide open in the middle of the field for chunk plays. And I just, for the life of me, don't understand for a guy who's like, I know you're not on this team next year. You know you're not on this team next year, but you're probably auditioning for your next contract, are you not? Like, you're a vet. Let the ball rip, man. You got nothing to lose. Just throw it. Like, it can't get any worse right now. So, and that's where I'm perplexed, right? So before we get out of here, because I feel like you're done with your rant and you want to move on with this, and I definitely want to move on with this too. I do want to applaud, like you said, George Kittle still can play this game. Welcome back. Ayuk. Hey, look, this offense looks really, really different when you start to get him involved. Who would have thought? We saw that last year. I just talked about Mitchell. The biggest positive for me is I realistically feel like we are 1 loss away from finally seeing Trey Lance, Banks, maybe Sermon, maybe Demo comes back, Ambry Thomas, Jalen Moore. To me, this season now becomes, if what I think is going to happen on Monday night happens. It is now time to see who's on this roster in 2022. And that's okay with me, right? Like I am okay with that.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of the frustration that is building from the fan base was because of this 2019 narrative that was sold about running it back and thinking that you can duplicate that. Ask a Bears fan today on Wednesday how they feel about losing on Monday. They are excited. And why are they excited? Because they have a glimpse into what's down the line. And that's what this season should have been about from the beginning. Developing Trey Lance, developing your guys and the future, because it's obviously not going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. Right now, a Bears fan just watched their team lose in heartbreaking fashion on Monday, and they woke up on Tuesday and probably felt like they won that game. Why? Because Justin Fields has gotten plenty of reps and he is looking much better. And that's what you have to look forward to. The 49ers have mishandled this entire situation and sold this fan base an impossible dream. And that's why this frustration was built here. I guarantee you, if it was a 49er team that was 3-5 right now, with Trey Lance starting week 1 and he's progressing, everybody would be fine with everything right now. But they're not, because you lied to everybody and you sold everybody a dream of being able to run back an impossible set of circumstances, which happened in 2019 that led to a Super Bowl run. It's unfortunate.
Hey, quick question. Are you think Bears fans are more happy with the progression of Justin Fields or the fact that they probably have 9 more weeks with Matt Nagy?
well, one way or another, whoever the next head coach is, they're getting a good one. They're getting a good one. And I think those guys know that they have their guy for 10 to 12 years. And I'd like to know that feeling.
Yeah. So I'm going to fall on my sword here, because I was definitely one of these, screw it, I'll call myself a pundit, right? Going into the season where I said, and maybe it's because I bought the bag of goods that was being sold to me, right? And I paid full price for it. I get all of that. But I did firmly believe, and I am documented on this, that you didn't roll with Trey right out of the gate, right? Because I did believe that, like, hey, what we saw of Jimmy in 2019 was like, wow, this is what we were hoping for in 2017. It wasn't stellar, but it was good enough, you know? And then we didn't get to see that in 2020 for so many reasons. So it's like, maybe he's got more experience in Shanahan's offense. Let's call it what it is, man. Trey Lance is almost 2 years removed from competitive football, right? Like at an FCS level, this is not the FCS, right? Like all of these players are the uber athletic and the uber, top uber talent in the world. So I said, I didn't want to say this was Mahomes Smith, right? Because it's not, first of all, neither one's like of the same skill set. I just thought it was bide its time, right? Like, but at any time you could pivot this, and Lou will tell you that, like, by week 3, I was ready to pivot this because I wasn't seeing anything impressive out of Jimmy that I didn't actually believe that Trey couldn't do himself, right? So like, then it was more about get the reps. Do we have enough talent around him? And the real answer is, like, we don't, like, it's just not the same 2019 team. It's just not, like, no veteran leadership. I don't want to say no DeForest Buckner, but like a big missing piece. But again, there's just like, I feel like when I look back at it now, people like Quan Alexander and Richard Sherman were much more instrumental in the success of this team than we probably even gave them credit for from a veteran leadership standpoint, right? You had a lot of young kids out there just running around doing some things, and you had some veterans that were like the glue together. So I have one question back for you, Jason, before we get out of this.
Yep.
While we have you tonight, I am actually dying to get a minute. Just give me a minute on how you are feeling about Kyle Shanahan as our head coach at this moment, because the obvious is, what does fan stand for? Fanatical, right? So you have people on one side that are just like, get rid of this guy. And the others ones are like, maybe we need to change the responsibilities. I'll tell you right now, I am of the school of thought, and I certainly do not subscribe to getting rid of this guy, because he will be hired in a second. And I think we will regret that. I want to see him attached to Trey, but I don't, but I also don't know what that will yield. So tell me, like, your thoughts in a minute, if you can, on Kyle.
Yeah, and I mean, real quick, Kyle Shanahan's not going anywhere. Okay,
yep.
They didn't trade the farm for Trey Lance to get rid of him and have someone else try to groom him. That's not the idea. The last excuse that Kyle Shanahan has is that he hasn't had his guy. This is his guy, and whether you wanted to start him or not, that's a whole other thing. But I will say that this, as a co-founder of OnlyShans, I am frustrated And I'm frustrated because of the arrogance and how naive he has been this entire offseason to think that he could have handled this quarterback situation the way that he did. Let's do a little bit of timeline. Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold, Steve Young, Jeff Garcia, Joe Montana, literally every single able-bodied two-arm quarterback under the sun, Tom Brady, you flirted with all offseason. And then
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, on draft night, you pivot right after that to plan Z, which is trade everything for 3, to get to 3. And then you look everybody in the face and say, Jimmy Garoppolo's been my guy. You have been actively trying to replace this man for 2 years. How do you think that looks in the locker room? How do you think that looks to Jimmy Garoppolo? In my eyes, when you're trying to replace him as desperately as you are, you make that move. I don't care if you don't get anything for him. You get him off your roster, you rip the Band-Aid off, and do what you have been doing with your action. To think that you were going to be able to hold Jimmy Garoppolo and do this old school mentality, because it is old school and it's played out for quarterbacks to sit behind someone else. Kyler Murray didn't sit. Justin Herbert played right away. Joe Burrow played right away. All of these guys are successful right now. That's not how this works anymore. Josh Allen's the only one who actually progressed through his growing pains because he was raw, but at least he played right away. It was arrogant. It was naive to think that he had a handle on this, and it's blown up in their face to the point right now where they're in no man's land at this point. And you could have all seen this coming, because Jimmy Garoppolo is who he is, and he will not change the way that he's playing. And I feel bad for Jimmy too, because it's not like he's playing horribly, but he's going to lose his job because it's not his time, and they should have been giving these reps to Trey Lance.
Yep. So you and I see eye to eye, right? Like, not only is he not going anywhere, Kyle, like, I don't necessarily want him to go anywhere just yet, but I do know there needs to be shakeups and there needs to be changes, and we need to look into like player development and who's actually making the decisions on people that we're bringing in. Like, for the life of me, I can't understand why our second round and both third round picks have barely seen the field this year. Like, that to me, those are typically plug and play starters for teams in the NFL, right? And just obviously is not right now. So, all right, we're done with that. Let's shake it off. Let's go have a little more fun right now.
You guys need a woosah now.
I know.
Yeah, I'm good.
Everybody just take a virtual hug moment. Exactly. So let's get into our offensive and defensive performance of the week. And then we're going to get into a lot of fun mid-year rewards, etc. Jason, again, since you were kind enough to join us, why don't you, if you had this opportunity, tell me who your offensive performer of the week was this week?
Man, so many crazy performances, right? So, like, this was such a wild week in the terms of, for instance, Josh Johnson, backup quarterback for the New York Jets, was the number 3 overall quarterback on the week. And that's insane to me when you really think about that, right? In terms of who I thought would probably be the offensive player of the week this week, it's probably going to be Justin Herbert in this game. In this one, because of his numbers, he was just great in this game. I mean, I was really, again, I understand, the whole got to get the ball around and everything, but I thought Justin Herbert played very well, man. And I think that this is the get right kind of like leadership game that he had, like, to kind of stake his claim as like, yeah, man, I'm still here and I'm still that guy. So I was really impressed with Justin Herbert, and that's not me sucking up to you, Lou, or anything like that. It just is what it is. I just really like what I saw from him. I thought that touchdown run was really, really emphatic, and I was like, man, there it is right there. Look at the kid, and it was gritty, right? Because it wasn't, that, like you said, the 49ers are finding ways to lose games. That's a sign of a bad team. Good teams find ways to win games. And that's what the Chargers did this week. And I was impressed with Justin Herbert. So I'll say Justin Herbert this week.
All right,
Love it.
All right.
So now that Jason probably stole your thunder, Lou,
No.
who are you going to roll with this week?
Weston, I'm never a homer.
Yeah, that's true. You are not a homer.
I have like a love-hate relationship with the Chargers. So I'm not going to open up the fresh wounds, and I'm not even going to go close to the city of San Francisco this past week. Maybe you will, Weston, if you dare. So I'm going to say Jonathan Taylor. Everyone, I feel like a lot of people forget about those Thursday night games, but he was phenomenal. He had 19 carries for 172 yards, 2 touchdowns, and that 78-yard, long scamper down the right sideline. He's been phenomenal. We covered in the offseason that he was one of my top 10 running backs, in the league. I think he was around like number 8. Because especially we did towards I think the last 6 or 7 games, and I thought it was an upward progression for him. So and guess what? He's been phenomenal this year, and he was really physical against the Jets, and he had a lot of breakaway speed. I was very impressed by him, and he's the real deal. So I thought he had one of the best weeks, when it comes to an offensive standpoint.
9.1 yards a carry. That's
insane, man. And he had 19 touches. 19
and he got hurt. And he got hurt in the game.
Yeah.
True.
Lou, I love your point that everybody sleeps on the Thursday night game. And Jason, I love how you led with Josh Johnson, because I was really actually tempted to put him as my player of the week, more because I'm spiteful. Because during that game, if you recall, they're listing all the stops that Josh Johnson has had in his professional career, and they just completely neglected to say that he had literally 3 stints when San Francisco, right? Like, he's been on our roster multiple times, and there were times where I was like, just put this guy in, like,
practice squad legend.
Yeah, like, just put this guy in. For me, I'm gonna pour salt right in the goddamn wound. This was James Conner, the Terminator.
Yeah, it was. It really was,
week, dude. 21 for 96, 2 tutties, 5 receptions for 77 yards, another tutty. This man had 173 total yards of offense, and I mean, dude, it pissed me off. Don't get me wrong, but in the middle of the game, they were calling him John Connor, right? Like, by accident, right? Because they're literally seeing and thinking of the Terminator, and I'm just like, I can't lie. Now, this is a one-off James Conner type season, right? Like, he's getting in the end zone. He's like a fantasy football player's wet dream right now. I don't think I'm a Fordham grad. So let me be very clear about this. Chase Edmonds is my man, right? Mm-hmm. Like, nobody roots harder for Chase Edmonds, even on a competitive team, than me. So it broke my heart to even see him go down, partly because I'm carrying his ass in fantasy as well. But that being said, this was James Conner. I mean, this is literally a career game for him that he had against us this week.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't want to do it. I wanted to make.
No, I'll do it, man. Listen. I'm here to. You got to pay your respects, right? Like, this man embarrassed another squad, and he deserves to be not that he's ever going to hear this or know about it, but James Conner, you're getting love from me right now.
I'll tag him.
I appreciate that. Make sure you tag John Connor, not James Conner. So, all right, Jason, defense. On the defensive side of the ball, Lou and I were joking before you hopped on with us that this was a pretty good week for a couple defensive players, right? There was a couple guys that really stood out on film and in the stats. So, who would you label or peg as, like, who had the most noteworthy defensive performance this week?
I'm going to steal it before you guys do, because you allowed me to go first. Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen literally did everything. I mean, I was tempted between Josh Allen and someone else. I mean, I don't want to say the other person's name because maybe you guys are going to say it. But Josh Allen, sacking Josh Allen, fumble recovery on Josh Allen, interception on Josh Allen. Yeah, I mean, literally 3 things that you're never going to see again as a football fan. How could it not be him? It led to a win. He was the catalyst. He was all over the field. The kid is unbelievable. Giants fans, if you're listening, you could have had in back-to-back drafts Josh Allen and Josh Allen. And you did not do either of those things. No. So, yes, but Josh Allen was incredible, man. Everywhere all over the field.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I watched a lot of that game. Josh Allen was harassing Josh Allen and going. It was just Josh Allen had literally numbers in like every statistical category you can think of: forced fumble recovery. You said interception, sack, pass. He had a pass defense too. Like he was phenomenal this past weekend.
Yeah, and to see NFL history like that, because I kept tweeting it. Josh Allen sacks Josh Allen, NFL history. Josh Allen fumble recovery, NFL history. And it's just, it's fun to say that, but Josh Allen is a baller, though. He really is.
To me, this was the best game I've seen him play. And I think it was, listen, he doesn't play in the national spotlight, right? Like, it's like he's not on anybody's fantasy squad, right? So you don't follow him with the same conviction that you do other players in the league. But I think what brought him to notoriety of this week was beating the Buffalo Bills. But to your point, Josh Allen on Josh Allen, Josh Allen on Josh Allen. Like, this is like a commentator's dream. This is a media, individual's dream. So, but this usually does happen to me because I always let Lou go first. So usually he just steals my person. So I'm glad you stole it because Lou was going to steal it anyway.
Actually, I wasn't.
So
I had him here, but
who was your number 1 then, Lou, since you're saying Josh Allen wasn't?
One of my favorite players in this previous year's NFL draft. I'm going to say Micah Parsons.
Wow, that's who I was going to say. I'm glad.
I'm so glad you didn't.
Right? Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay. He balled out. Second week in a row. I mean, more than second week in a row, but second week in a row, he really showed a lot of progression. He had 10 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 3 tackles for loss, 3 QB hits, and he had a play on Jerry Jeudy, where he basically just dragged him out of the bounds with his one hand. It was like reminiscent this past weekend what I did to my 3-year-old daughter when she's throwing a fit, and I had to take her out of Trader Joe's. This is like grown man strength, because Jeudy was, gearing up, and I was going to say Josh Allen, Micah Parsons just literally came, flying, to the east side of the field and just like ripped him out of bounds with one hand. He was one of my favorite players in the NFL draft this past year, and for these reasons, he can do. I feel like he's not your traditional off the ball linebacker. He could apply pressure to the quarterback. He's all over the field, and you notice the last two weeks have been better for him, for the mere fact that he's no longer calling plays. He's just playing now. He's just reacting, boom, go get him. And that's been huge, I feel like, because he's been really balling out against the Vikings in this past week.
Well, there you have it. So my 1 and 2 have both been stolen. I'm so glad that I come prepared with multiple people every week, because I don't like to be.
There's so many this week. There's so many this week.
There was. So since I get to go last here, and you both stole my thunder, I'm gonna say a name that I was really tempted to, and I'm gonna give you my guy. Troy Hill was another one that I thought had a really outstanding defensive performance. But my guy this week, outside of the two that you have aforementioned, I'm going to say J.C. Jackson. So I'm a big J.C. Jackson fan. First of all, I love defensive backs. I love the divas of the NFL. It's like I love guys out on an island because it's go big or go home with those guys, When they make mistakes, everybody knows. But when they make a big play, everybody knows, because they're always in the camera line. But 2 tackles, 2 picks, a long one return for a TD, 2 passes defensed. And since I couldn't say Micah Parsons or Josh Allen, I'm going with J.C. Jackson this week as my defensive player of the week.
Real quick, Jeffrey Simmons also balled out too.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's been phenomenal this year.
Yep.
Yeah, Cam Bynum had a great game too as well, and it's not Anthony Barnett I'm thinking of. Eric Kendricks had a great game for Minnesota, man. I mean, I understand they played 5 quarters, but still, like he had 18 tackles. Yeah,
18 tackles in an NFL game. That is silly. I almost said Bobby Okereke just because I wanted to say Okereke first and then correct myself and be like, I didn't know we changed pronunciations of names like mid-season, like I just didn't know that was a thing, but what do I know? So, all right, this is the moment I've actually been waiting for, getting into our mid-season awards. So I think we can, in this instance, if we're saying the same person, let's say the same person, let's agree to say that person, because like want to give these people their due props. So Jason, again, as our guest, I'm going to lead with you, and I'm going to start with Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'm not doing by conference, just Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Right now, it's got to be Najee Harris. I mean, I understand that they're not running the ball very well, and he's not exactly the bell cow that they want. And if you watch Monday Night Football, they were trying to make that happen because Ben Roethlisberger is so limited right now. But what he's doing in the receiving game, he's been great for them, and he's been saving them on so many plays because Ben is so limited at this point. Great quarterback, but obviously this is the end of the line. Right now, I think that it's him. I'm sure you guys are going to say the other person who I know for a fact is there, but right now Najee is the driving force of that offense. The reason that I'm leaning away from the person that I know you guys are going to say is that they have other weapons that are actually really good, and I understand that this person is also a record-breaking start. But Najee Harris is like shouldering the entire load for those guys. No Juju Smith-Schuster. Chase Claypool is injured now. Deontay Johnson's fantastic. I love him. But Ben Roethlisberger can barely get him the ball down the field. Najee Harris is being asked to get tough yards and bail Ben Roethlisberger out. They're leaning on the kid heavy, and he's been involved since day one.
Yeah. I can't even argue with that. One thing I will say, though, when you're talking about like the struggles of, let's just call it Ben getting it to these receivers and like having impact, what a steal Freiermuth was, huh? Lou, you called this, leading into the draft. This is one of your guys from the Senior Bowl, right?
Yeah, I was a point on in the draft, by the way. I was high. I was really high on Freiermuth. I watched a lot of his tape, and he was someone I wanted the Chargers to target in round 2. Picture him in this LA and with the LA offense.
I just think he's a perfect fit for Pittsburgh as a city. On the team. Jason, you were at the Senior Bowl, weren't you? Were you down at the Senior Bowl? So you got to see him firsthand, right?
Yeah, Muth was killing it out there, man. And yeah, I mean, he is perfect. He fits in that Heath Miller mold. Like he just seems like he's just a perfect fit. Like you almost couldn't. And the Penn State guy, like
Yeah.
so like I think that it was a perfect fit. Pennsylvania gets to go home. It's all good, I think. And I know that has nothing to do with how players perform, but he is a perfect fit over there, and he's actually ascending right now.
He's playing fantastic. So Lou, I'm going to go second because
Let me go first.
I don't want you stealing my guy, bro.
You know what? A lot of people call me a prick, and I get it. It's justified and warranted. However, I'm going to be a gentleman, and I'll let you talk about probably who you're going to talk about.
Because you know who I want to talk about.
I know. I got you.
I said day one. This was my favorite player in the draft this year. I think he was the best.
I got you.
The best football player in the draft this year. And he's proven me right. Jamar Chase, 44 receptions, 835 yards. That's third in the NFL behind Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel, right? As a rookie. We're talking about 7 TDs. That's tied for fourth. 19 yards per catch. That's tied for third from a rookie. But I do think some of this was to be expected, right? Like, it's not often a collegiate player gets to reunite with their collegiate quarterback that they had the most success with. So there was already on-field chemistry before you even got to, like, training camp and familiarity. So I knew in the preseason that the drops and all that shit that was going on with him and like, hey, the laces are different and there's not the stripe on the ball. Like when the game lights are on, Jamar Chase is ready to play football is the way that I break it down. So that to me right now, I was tempted to go one other direction, but I didn't because offensive lineman can't be rookie of the year. It's Jamar Chase. I know, dude. I know.
All right.
Here we go.
Let me tell you what's wrong with society nowadays. All right? It's people like you, Weston. All right, fat guys need loving too. All right, no, you both got it wrong. It's Rashawn Slater, and let me tell you why it's Rashawn Slater. If you were to say he's the best offensive tackle in the AFC right now, people wouldn't look at you so crazy. He's allowed only 1 pressure or less in 5 of his 8 games. He balled out against Myles Garrett. He did give up a sack and what have you, but the reason why he did give up the sack is because Austin Eckler chipped Garrett and basically redirected him into Slater's inside shoulder where he wasn't expecting it. And after that happened, Slater looked at Eckler and said, listen, you got to stop chipping him. Let me take him. He did and shut him down for the rest of the game. He's a PFF grade for 81.9. Rashawn Slater, it won't happen. But
no, it won't.
He should be the offensive rookie of the year.
You
never hear his name. Offensive lineman, if you don't hear their name, you're doing something right.
So, Jason, you started Only Shans. Maybe you can help Lou start Only Rashawn's.
Only Rashawn's. Yep, that's it.
And start that up. All right. So I'm actually shocked, right, that we had 3 different names here because I do want us to like agree at some point. So, Jason, again, the floor is yours. Give me your defensive rookie of the year.
Micah Parsons, I think right now. And I think that a lot of the criticisms that he took early on in the season were for people that don't really understand the techniques. I'm not going to call out the person, but week 1 in Tampa Bay, there's a play where he's at the line and he's stepping back and they're like, man, he looks so lost. No, that's robot technique. You're looking for the run first and then you're looking for the crosser. And he's picking it up right now. And for the Cowboys to actually nail a defensive player besides Trevon Diggs in the draft and everything as well, that's something that they don't normally do. So I think it's him right now. And I think that he is ascending at the right time for them. I still think that this week was just a bit of a fluke, but Micah Parsons is the guy I think right now. And I think that he's jumping ahead with each week that he puts out on tape.
Yeah, that gentleman you were talking about, by the way, he got murdered by a lot of So
stick to fantasy, bro.
Exactly. Stick to the numbers, man. Stick to the numbers. Man.
So, Lou, tell me who you got. You got the same?
I've been on the Parsons train since day one, and I agree with Jason 100% wholeheartedly. In 8 games, he has 5 sacks, 52 total tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 14 QB hits. This is a linebacker, an off the ball linebacker. I know they utilize him in different ways and what have you, but these are numbers you would see strictly from a pass rusher. Also, shout out to Osi Odugazawa. He's been balling pretty good too this year, and he was one of my guys from the Senior Bowl too. High motor guy, and he's another one of those guys that's really transformed that Dallas Cowboys defense.
Yeah, I got Micah too. I think it's hands down at this point in the season. And I don't see that trajectory changing if he continues on this path. What I think my favorite thing about him is he's just one of those guys to me that outside of playing the nose in like a 3-4 alignment can play any position on the defensive side of the ball and probably excel. He's just got a different level skill set. He's kind of the Swiss Army knife of a defense, like you said, like a middle linebacker. Now he's playing off the line. Right now he's coming off the edge. Now he's coming through the gaps in blitzing schemes. Like he's just making it all work for him. The other outside name I would throw out there is just Azeez Ojulari. I just think he's having a better season than most people anticipated. Coming off of uncertainty around his knee injury as a second round pick. A lot of teams like passed on him. Like originally might have had a first round grade on that guy and slipped out.
Why did the 49ers jump all over him? An edge rusher with a knee injury, and now you don't want him?
No, because we got rid of Balky, dude. If Balky was here, that's a home run. We're taking him 3 overall. We're trading up to get him. But don't even get me started on the second round because the swing and misses in the second round, like I still don't understand why Asante Samuel Jr. is not donning 26 in a 49ers uniform.
Creed Humphrey.
Because he looks so much better in powder blue, baby.
Sure does. We all look better in powder blue, don't we? All right. So let's flip the script a little bit. Offensive and defensive player of the year. Jason, give me your offensive player of the year so far.
Cooper Kupp, man. I mean, what the hell is going on? I mean, it's so crazy how he was already known as one of the better slot receivers in the league, and that was with Jared Goff. Obviously, the upgrade to quarterback, you could have seen the numbers shoot up, but you would have never seen them shoot up to this level. I mean, he looks unguardable right now, and he has a guy who's making all the throws. Some of these numbers are just ridiculous. 74 catches. We're in week 10. 1,019 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 113 yards per game, which is still second in the league to Deebo Samuel. All right, yes, but I just wanted to make sure we put that. But with another game that they've added, he's probably going to go for 2 bands as long as he stays healthy, man. So I think it's Cooper Kupp, and this season is remarkable.
Yeah, if he breaks Calvin Johnson's record, I demand an asterisk because of an extra game. But everything that you just rattled off, 74 receptions, 1,019 yards, 10 touchdowns, first in all categories, right? How often do you see that? And wow, what an impact Matthew Stafford is having on this gentleman's career. One
more little thing. Cooper Kupp is the first player since Jerry Rice in 1990 to have 1,000 yards and 10 or more touchdowns in his first 10 games.
It's crazy.
That's all you need to know.
Crazy. And you're in the company of the GOAT. And when I say GOAT about Jerry Rice, I legit mean the greatest football player of all time. Guys,
I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. So you're saying Cooper Kupp is better than Jerry Rice? Right?
Stop right now.
That's what the numbers say. That's it. Don't watch the film, man. Just go for it.
Lou, who you got? You got Cooper as well?
Yeah, I mean, he's on pace for 2,038 yards. And like you say, he leads the NFL in catches, yards, touchdowns, 20-plus yard catches as well. Receptions for first down. There's not a stat out there when it comes to reception standpoint that he doesn't lead. He's second in 40 plus yards catches too. So it is Cooper Kupp. If Derrick Henry was healthy, I think it would be actually more neck and neck because Henry was finding the end zone at an alarming rate. And I know he wasn't as efficient and productive as he was in the past from a yards per rush standpoint, but I think it would have been a little more interesting if Henry was still out there.
All right.
Still leads the league in rushing, I believe.
Yeah, he does. It's not even close. Not even close.
No, it's not. All right, so it's unanimous. Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
Offensive player of the year. Defensive player of the year. Jason, you lead.
Myles Garrett, man. I mean, what else can this guy do? I mean, he's about to pass his career high total next week. I mean, he's got already 12 sacks. He's had 13 and a half. 12 sacks, 12 TFLs, 23 hits on the quarterback. I mean, it's unreal. The guy looks like somebody who you built in a lab, putting it all together, and he's about to smash all his career highs right now. So I'm going to give it to Myles Garrett at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you stole my thunder there. It's definitely Myles Garrett. He's head and shoulders above anyone. He leads the league in sacks with 12. And like you said, he is really going to blow his numbers out of the water. He's 6 QB hits away from his career high of 29. He's only a sack half away from his best season ever. Like I said, it's definitely Myles Garrett. And it's not just – TJ Watt is a great player and all, but he does find himself – he gets sacks in interesting ways. Myles Garrett, he produces sacks, in my opinion. And watching some of his pass rushing moves, there was a footage out there. It was like an Allen Iverson crossover on the left tackle that it looked like he teleported. And Myles Garrett is literally the perfect combination: size, speed, and technique too. So it's usually we're talking about Aaron Donald at this time, but it is for me it's Myles Garrett right now.
All right. So it's going to be Garrett by split decision because I've got TJ Watt here.
Okay.
TJ's a half a sack off of Myles for the year. The difference for me is some of the other statistical categories. And when I look at things like forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, passes defense, the Watt brothers just tend to do a lot more at the line of scrimmage. I agree with you. Some of Watt's sacks are manufactured, right, by schemes and being in that really wide 9 technique, the way that he comes down. I have to laugh. Did any of you guys see like when JJ and TJ were watching film together, and the NFL countdown leading in, and they were just like critiquing each other's film, and JJ was just like destroying TJ, like, bro, I got to do all of this. Like, this just happens for you. Like, you're lined up, and you know what? He still has to do it though. So I was so tempted to put Garrett. I was really tempted to put Trayvon Diggs here just because 7 INTs, like 9 games in, is like crazy to me, or 8 games in, whatever it is, for the Cowboys, but. I had TJ, but I can't even argue with Garrett. So this is the next two are what I'm most interested to hear from you guys. So let's start with league MVP. Again, Jason, you have the honors, sir.
Man, if you would have asked me a few weeks ago, I would have had one answer. You would have asked me 2 weeks later, I would have had another answer. But we're week 9, where we're at right now. Oh, this is such a boring answer, but it's Tom Brady. And the reason that I'm going to say is Tom Brady, and I would have probably said Kyler a few weeks ago. He gets injured. I would have said Josh Allen, but he's struggling a little bit right now. How is this still happening? I mean, your numbers are still insane. Let me rattle off some of these numbers real quick for him. 67.3% of his throws, third highest rate of his career, 25 touchdowns, leads the league, 50 yards, putting him on pace for 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards. How is this possible? And this is possible right now with a defense that is not nearly as dominant as it was in years past, because that secondary is getting picked on right now. And he's about to go into this game this week. It looks like Chris Godwin's not going to play. Antonio Brown's not going to play. It'll just be him, Mike Evans, and whoever else. They just signed Rashad Perriman. Do you have any doubt that he's going to go? He's not going to go in there and light up the opponent. So, yeah, I mean, if you would ask me a few weeks ago, I'd probably give you a different answer. But right now, it's Tom Brady, and it's a really boring answer because it's like, dude, we get it. We get it already. We get it. Yeah. Just go home. We get it already. Yeah, just stop, man. Who are you proving this to? Yeah. Is it because you're angry at Bill Belichick? But right now it's Tom Brady, I think, and I just you'll never witness like anything like this ever again.
I loved how you phrased it. Like, I know, you're just almost like I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this out loud. Yeah. But watch out for Scotty Miller, who's going to have like 1.5 bucks and 2 tutties this weekend, right? Like, it's just what's going to happen. You already know
Gronk is going to come back and he'll have 2 touchdowns. And it's just like, come on, man. Like,
it's unbelievable. Lou, who do you got?
I don't think it's Tom Brady, and that's no slight to him. He does have a bright future in this game, I believe, Tom Brady.
Might be good. Might be good one day.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a good career in the next 10 years. It's Lamar Jackson for me, to be honest with you. What he's been doing with this makeshift offensive line, and he has corpse as running backs behind him. It's been nothing short but miraculous. He ranks 7th in the NFL in rushing with 600 yards. He's 9th in the league with 2,209 passing yards, 15 total touchdowns, averaging the highest yards per attempt in his career, 8.3 yards per attempt. And I think what's differentiated him from other years prior, he's making the throws that critics said he couldn't make the throws, like to the outside, the boundary, and what have you. So he's giving defensive coordinators fits. Even if you contain him for a portion of the game, he's still going to get his 80 rushing yards. He's still going to get his 270 passing yards and like 3 touchdowns. And I firmly believe it's Lamar Jackson this year.
Yeah. He's playing a different brand of football, right? It's
hard to argue.
Yeah, it's just not typical Lamar, and you got to like what you see from him. But again, another topic here, and all 3 of us are swinging for different fences, and I think that's what makes just this type of banter a lot of fun. Like, so for me, I'm going to fall on my sword again here a little bit, because when this team took this player, I was thrilled to death because that meant we were getting Nick Bosa. But I was also thrilled because I thought a team in my division was going to swing, and I thought this was going to be like Baker Mayfield syndrome. Like, listen, Baker was a really good collegiate quarterback. Kyler Murray was a really good collegiate quarterback, but sometimes those things don't translate as well to the NFL. It's just the way that it is. And I didn't think Kyler Murray had the Russell Wilson in him, the smaller guy, the nimble guy that just like is a playmaker, but he's and I didn't know if his heart was in it. Like if I was him, I probably would have gone and played baseball and gotten all that guaranteed money and been just as good, right? And play for the next 15 years of my life. So I just was like uncertain about so many things. Long story short, to me, Kyler Murray is playing a great brand of football right now. 2,200 plus, passing yards, almost 9 yards a completion, 17 touchdowns. I think the most impressive thing is the 110.4 QB rating. That's the highest, not the QBR, just the rating. I know those are two separate statistics, right? That's second highest in the NFL behind only Matthew Stafford. But he's also got another 150 on the ground, 3 TDs. The offense just, dude, when he's in there, let's take this 49ers game out of the equation and take the other 49er game out of the equation, which seemed to be an anomaly. But when he's in this offense, you're talking 34, 35 points a game. It's efficient. It looks better. To me right now, looking at their record, where they stand in the NFL, where they stand in the NFC, and he is a huge component of that. So he's my league MVP 9 games through the season.
Okay. I like it.
All right. Coach of the year.
I think we're going to have 3 different answers here too.
Good. You lead us in.
All right. I know that this team just lost this week. I know that they just lost this week. But it's Sean Payton. I mean, when you look at the numbers crunches, when you're talking about the salary cap and what this team was able to do, no Michael Thomas, and Jameis Winston was there, and Sean Payton was essentially turning him around. I don't think people understand how well Jameis Winston was playing. I think he only had like 2 or 3 interceptions going into that game where he winds up injuring himself. And they were winning. They were 5-2 before, obviously, they lost this game to the Falcons. And need I remind you, they were this close to winning that game where Trevor Simmons started. And, I mean, it's just a testament to Sean Payton and being able to get the most out of his guys. And if you can win games, obviously this can change, right? Let's just say, obviously, whatever happens going forward in the first half changes because Trevor Simeon is, let's just say, a backup, at this point, and it may be a combination of him and Taysom Hill. There's even rumblings that they're trying to coax Phillip Rivers out, which I would love that. I would definitely love to see that with him. But when you talk about not getting Michael Thomas back, Alvin Kamara being the only person, really a makeshift wide receiver core, that defense is so good, and that team competes, and they're always in every single game. I think it's Sean Payton, and I was tempted to go one other way. I'm pretty sure you guys are going to go with it, especially considering what they did this week. But I think what Sean Payton has done, considering turning around Jameis Winston and then almost pulling out this game with Trevor Simeon by making adjustments in the second half, because they were getting beat up pretty bad by Atlanta, and Atlanta almost Atlanted the hell out of that game. At the same time, they lose, but I think it's Sean Payton. He's such a good coach, man. He always has his team prepared, and they're always competing.
I mean, it's hard to argue. I mean, there's a reason why when you look at people like Payton and Tomlin and like take Belichick out of the equation, Harbaugh, Andy Reid, like their longevity in this league is because they are really good coaches and adapt to very different scenarios, right? Like this is not no Michael Thomas, like you said, no Michael Thomas, no Drew Brees. Like there's just a totally different offense than Sean Payton's accustomed to having. So what does he do? He helps his team get better on defense, right? Let's play a defensive football brand of football. So I didn't see that coming, but I'm so glad you volunteered that information because you're not wrong, right? Like you can argue that all day long that he is deservingly so to this point in the season, the coach of the year. So Lou, who you got?
I'm actually going to defer to you, Weston. I'm going to let you go first.
All right. So this is going to sound like the biggest cop-out. And I promise you this has very little to do with the record and more to do with the year-over-year improvement in spite of harsh critics. I was very tempted to put Matt LaFleur here. Very tempted but I'm going with Cliff Kingsbury.
I knew it.
Because I thought this guy was a pretender. Like I literally thought this guy was a pretender. First, let me tell you what's the most impressive about this individual. My man was rocking sunglasses on the side of as a head coach, rocking shades and stylish shades. Like, all right, dude, like you got a little swag to you. I'm about that. Very impressive how he got his team up to go on the road against a division opponent, down many men, and smack them in the mouth, right? They're an AJ Green blunder away from beating Green Bay and being very undefeated in this league. But that like when Cliff came into the league, this high flying offense that worked at Texas Tech, right? Like it wasn't working in the NFL. Like
felt gimmicky.
It was all smoke and mirrors. It was good for your first 15, But what are you going to do for the next 45 minutes of a football game, right? Like it just didn't feel like it was coming to fruition. And right now, I think there are a lot of coaches scrambling to say, how do I make my offense look like that? And he has a lot to do with it. Now, granted, he's got the right players in place. Like, I make no secret about it. DeAndre Hopkins is my favorite player in the NFL, and he doesn't even play for my team. I love everything about that man. I think he is wide receiver 1 in this league. But you got to have the means to get to him. You got to scheme these guys open from time to time. You got to have the quarterback. And I just think right now, Cliff is having his day, and it's gelling. They're vibing. You see that they're having fun on the sideline, and winning breeds all of that. But he's joining right in, and I think he's motivating his guys. And again, I hate using this term, but I'm going to fall on my sword again because I was one of the first to mock that individual, and this year he's proven me entirely wrong.
I agree. That's what I was struggling with.
Yep.
Guys, don't mean to be a dick and all, but you both.
But you are, so just get to it.
But you both got it wrong, right?
Brandon Staley,
Urban Meyer, and let me tell you why. Hold on, hear me out.
You're serious.
He has
I'm turning off your mic. Jason, how do I turn off his mic and stream?
Wait a minute. Think outside the box. Think outside the box. The joys that he's brought to us this year as a coach has been fantastic. First, resurrecting Tim Tebow from the football grave, all right? Secondly, drafting a first-round running back when they already had a productive running back behind center. Thirdly, out-kicking his coverage with a college girl at a college bar. And last but not least, the sound clip of his saying that the NFL is like playing an Alabama team every week. It is by far Urban Meyer, Coach of the Year.
So
I couldn't do what he did in Ohio.
No, so I want to set the record straight right now.
He's joking.
Please be joking, and please come up with another name for me. But and if that's all that you prepared, that's all you prepared. But I'm gonna assume that's the name that you were talking about for one of these accolades that you could guarantee none of us are gonna have. So your punishment is you're not allowed to tell me who comeback player of the year is. You're not allowed to give me a surprise team, good or bad. We're moving forward for the remainder of the show without you.
I'm on mute.
I'll see you at the pick'em section.
All right.
So now that we've had a little fun and got that shit out of our system, Jason, give me a comeback player of the year. Any side of the ball, who's your comeback player of the year?
Dak Prescott. I mean, this week aside, I mean, it's unreal what he's been able to do. Obviously, he came back from an injury, and obviously, if you're looking at this week and you didn't see the body of work before, you would have said, man, what are you talking about? Obviously, he was rusty this week, but man, the guy is the driving engine of this offense and this team, and I think that he is somebody that does not get enough credit for being smart, pre-snap, making all the throws. It's just he's not exactly the most physically gifted quarterback, and yes, it helps that you have all these amazing weapons, and God help the NFL for letting CeeDee Lamb just fall to Dallas for some reason, which makes absolutely no sense. But at the same time, this week aside, what he's been able to do, he's been able to cover up all the things on the back end, went toe-to-toe with who I believe is the MVP week 1, nearly pulled that game out. Dak Prescott is far and away the comeback player of the year for me.
Yeah, hard to argue that. Lou, what do you got on the docket?
Urban Meyer. No. I'm joking. All right. I'll be a little different here. I did have Dak Prescott. Listen, he leads the best offense from a yardage standpoint this year, and all. They're third in points per game scored. So the low-hanging fruit, yes, it would be Dak Prescott. But for argument's sake, and just to be a little more different, why not Derwin James? And I'm not trying to be a homer here. He's had a phenomenal year. He has 68 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 1 interception, 3 forced fumbles. And the thing that's most impressive, he has played 5 positions this year. So, Brandon Staley has said that Derwin James's numbers would be way better if they just kept him at 2 different positions, but they need him to play 5 different positions for this defense to even have a chance. So the fact that he's shouldering that much load on a complicated, defense and still putting up, pretty impressive numbers, I'm going to say Derwin James.
Yeah, I think the NFL is more fun when Derwin James is healthy. I really hope the Chargers do make the playoffs because I think it'll put him back in a national spotlight that hasn't probably been seen since his rookie year, even coming out of Florida State, because he is a tremendous player. It's Dak for me all day. I was really, and I won't reiterate everything that's been said, very tempted to make a homer move here and go Nick Bosa coming back from an ACL, 7 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 30 tackles. he's actually outpacing what every one of us would coin a stellar rookie season that set the bar. But what's even more impressive to me, and Jason, you could probably even echo this, he's in the backfield. Like when I'm watching our defense and I'm looking at moments where I feel like embarrassed that I just see people standing around and not on assignment. And I feel more about that way over the last few games. I thought in the beginning of the season, our defense was actually playing very well and keeping us in games, like i.e. a fully healthy Arizona Cardinal team that we held to 17 points, 10 points for the majority of that game. But like, and I know that worked against us because this is a nod to Cliff. They ran at Bosa because they knew they couldn't block him. They knew that he was going to be in the backfield. So they just schemed that around him, kind of what you can do to Aaron Donald. But I just feel like when I'm looking at this team and I see people standing around, he still feels like maybe one of the two guys that is just always hustling. And what's even crazier is he's on the field a lot more than he was in his like rookie season, right? Like he's now an every down guy. Like there's moments where like when we used to have a deep defensive line before injuries, like you think you see a lot more rotation. He just seems to be the one guy that doesn't come off the field. So to me, I think he's having a tremendous return from an ACL injury.
11 tackles for loss. I mean, the guy's incredible, and he's the one thing you could set your watch to every single week. I mean, you'd be hard to argue against that. It's just, the numbers that Dak, is putting up. If Dak can continue to play like that, obviously this week aside, he might be in the MVP talk by the time the season's over. So I think that's what the difference is. But, you won't get any argument about Nick Bosa with me. I think that he's incredible.
Yeah. All right. So just because I want to be conscious of time and we have a few things that we want to get to, and that's kind of my job as the moderator here. I want to talk about surprise teams. So I'm going to ask you each just to give me either one good or one bad. I don't care, but just tell me if it's a good surprise or a bad surprise and tell me a little bit about that team. I normally was going to have us do one of each, but I kind of want to get through this. So Jason, give me a good or a bad surprise team for you so far this year.
I mean, it's a bad surprise as a 49ers fan, but I mean, in terms of what they're doing, 8-1 Arizona Cardinals, who could have seen that coming? I mean, as you said, I kind of mocked them all offseason. I don't care about JJ Watt showing up. AJ Green's done. Who cares? And it doesn't matter because, right, the smoke and mirrors stuff. And when Kyler Murray, I gave a lot of credit to whatever credit Cliff Kingsbury got on the fact that Kyler Murray's incredible and he literally makes plays. And that offense got stale last year. And when Kyler Murray got hurt, all of a sudden, the offense takes a turn for the worse. Now, I don't know. It's too hard to argue. And you're right. They are one A.J. Green away play from being 9-0, 8-1. And in my face, Cliff Kingsbury heard everything I said all offseason. It's hard to argue against that.
Love it. You can't argue against that, right? Like what a favorable, a very disappointing surprise as being the fans of the team that we are. But if you're a Cardinals fan, like, wow. I guarantee you in April and May, you didn't have this on your radar by any means. So, Lou, give me a good or a bad.
I'm going to say bad. And at first I wanted to say the Washington football team for all the hype they were getting, especially on the defensive standpoint. But when you factor in Fitzpatrick getting hurt the first game, they can kind of get a mulligan there. So I'm going to say the Kansas City Chiefs. It's weird. I know they're sitting at 5-4, so a game above 500. And they're still in contention to win the AFC West. And probably, when it also comes said and done, they will win the AFC West, but they are a shell of themselves. Their offense is broken. Their defense is atrocious. And look where they got their wins from. Cleveland, okay, a good Cleveland team. But ready? Philly, the Giants, and then Aaron Rodgers-less Packers. That's not really, murderer's row right there when it comes to, those 5 wins. And they got crushed by the real contenders of the AFC, Tennessee and Buffalo, and they lost to the Chargers at home. So I don't know what's going on. I feel like they're trying to reinvent themselves as the season goes on, and that's something that's always a recipe for disaster. I don't know if they're trying to become more of like a running team so then they can take those deep shots and what have you, but I'm going to say Kansas City Chiefs. Who would have thought they would have been this bad?
This is why I love the NFL so much. Sometimes this bites you in the ass, but this is why I love the NFL so much is because Mahomes isn't doing, and Andy Reid isn't necessarily doing anything different than they've done in this past. This defense has been pretty crappy for a little while. Now it's just getting exposed because the offense isn't on the same trajectory that it's been. But the NFL is so great because things that have worked for you in the past don't always work, right? The ball bounces in really funny directions. And that's what I love. Why do you think a team will force 40 turnovers or be plus 28 in turnover differential one year and then be -2 the next year. Like the ball just bounces funny, like things happen. Like the NFL's freaky like that. And every once in a while, you need to come back to reality. I think to me, for the Chiefs, the biggest thing is like you're 14-2 last year, you're 5-4 right now. Like, so you've already like doubled your loss total, and we're halfway through the season. Things are different. I'm going to stay on the bad train. I love partying in the negative way. And I'm going with the Dolphins actually down in Miami. So, 10-6 in 2020, 2-7 in 2021. I thought another year with Flores, trying to add some pieces. They had some interesting draft picks, some free agency moves. Hey, I was promised another year of Tua and more progression and a preseason and all of that nonsense that I've been saying is nonsense forever would put this team in a better spot. And like I just said, they're 2-7. Jason, Lou's had to hear me say this for quite some time now, and I'm just going to reiterate myself so that you are forced to hear it. Tua is not it. Period.
Unfortunately, I'm with you because I went down to Mobile, right? And Flores is there and Matt Rule is there. I was blown away by both of these guys because they have two drastically different coaching styles. Flores walks through, and it's almost like when we had chances to ask him questions, I was like, I'm not asking him a damn question. He's going to rip my face off.
Yeah.
I was like, he has that sort of like, imposing will, right? And then Matt Rule is literally the opposite. He literally is involved with every single aspect. He's coached almost every single group. I didn't know that either. He was a tight end coach, lineman coach, quarterback coach, running back coach. He's coached it all, and he's very vocal, right? And I think that where they've gone wrong was with the way he handled the quarterback situation last year. Ryan Fitzpatrick is winning. He's winning. And I don't even necessarily know if it was his decision to make that move, right? Maybe that was something that was told to him to do. And but you lose the locker room with that type of stuff. You're winning already. Why are you going to turn it over this way? Fitzpatrick was already balling. So, I mean, I feel bad because I don't think that now he's getting this reputation of being a bad coach. And as far as Tua goes, I wasn't really like big on him either. I don't think that he's outright terrible, or anything like that. But when you look at who they could have had, like they took Tua over Herbert. It was literally tank for Tua. And, Lou, you're happy, man. It really should have been tank for Justin. But I mean, it doesn't look good right now. And when you mentioned Miami and you mentioned Washington, those are two teams that right away stick out to me as well, too, because the way Washington's defense is crumbled, like literally you add William Jackson and I'm like, oh my goodness. So you're talking about now this pass rush with a guy who has been routinely slept on as one of the best cover corners. It's like, man, this is a recipe for success. I had them winning the division. They may not even win 5 games this year. And it's really bad. I feel bad for Ron Rivera, but it's not working this year.
Yeah. That's why, like I said, why I love the NFL, right? Is at the end of the day, what does this all prove? I know nothing, you know nothing, we know nothing, nobody knows anything, but we're here to talk the talk anyway, and I'm here for it all day long. So perfect, love it. Let's jump into Jason. When you look up and down the schedule, give me for week 10, give me one thing not on Monday night taking place that you might be looking forward to. And I don't even care because it's a big time fantasy player that's going in. Tell me the matchup that you're looking at, whether it's a team, a position battle, whatever it might be.
Yeah. So, man, this is tough. You know what's funny? I can't believe that I'm going to say this, but a team that I'm fascinated by, and not just because of all of the, bad things that's happening with their players, they're actually playing on Sunday night. I'm fascinated to watch this Raiders-Chiefs game. I'm really fascinated to watch it. Derek Carr's having one of his best seasons ever, right? So this weekend aside, he threw 2 picks. He threw a pick 6. But Deshaun Jackson's going to be brought in. They're playing the Chiefs. That division is really, really close at this point. The Raiders beat the Chiefs last year as well, too. And that was, all the bad things that have happened. Obviously, the Gruden thing, the Henry Ruggs thing is unfortunate. What's this kid's name? Damon Arnett. Now this happening now. It's just, I am fascinated by this show and just what they're and would it shock you if the Raiders knocked off the Chiefs this week? And I think that this game actually has a little bit more juice than people would realize. And when you're talking about surprises, if you would have asked me a few weeks ago, I would have said the Raiders were my biggest surprise, because they literally went out there and they traded almost all of their good linemen. And all they really did was sign Kenyon Drake. And I literally didn't understand what they were doing. I'm like, what is the plan here? What are you doing, right? You let John Brown go. You let Nelson Aguilar go. It's really just going to be Ruggs and Waller and Brian Edwards. And they were finding ways to win. Derek Carr was playing very good football. I'm fascinated to see how this game plays out, because they should have their way with the Chiefs defense. Those division games are always like that. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Raiders sent them to a 5-5 record.
Now, first of all, John Smoke Brown is your boy.
I love Smoke.
I know you
Shout
love
out to
Smoke. I know you love him. I'm actually, in a minute here, I'm going to just come out and say it. I'm picking the Raiders to win this football game. This was number one on my list as well. So I'll only spend 30 seconds here. I just don't think KC's got the KC juice this year, right? Lou just talked about it, right? Being a big surprise, and all their losses have come against bad teams, or all their wins, have come against bad teams. I think this Las Vegas Raiders team is not a bad football team. And I think Derek Carr, Jesus, why do they have to have brothers in the league, is playing at a high level right now, probably higher than we've seen him in a long time. And I think he's owning this leadership mentality, given that everything's going on. And that's what teams rally around, right? And they rally around situational football and things that happen off the field that are out of their control. How do we bring things back into our control? We do it, in between the stripes. Like, that's just the way that it goes, right? We do it within our 100 by 53.5. That's where we're going to make everything right here. So that's not my game. I'm going to pick my game, Lou. I'll tell you your game. Well, that was my game. But I'm actually looking at this Falcons-Cowboys game. First, I think the Atlanta Falcons are a better football team than their records states. I think when they get very creative on getting Cordero Patterson involved in the game, things happen. Minus no Calvin Ridley, right? Julio's gone. This kid Pitts is balling right now. Like, they're finding ways to get him the rock, and he's just proven he's a better athlete than everybody else. But to me, this is a more telling game for the Cowboys. How do you bounce back from a bad loss? Like, listen, losses happen in the NFL, right? Like, how often do teams go undefeated all the way through? It doesn't happen. But that was a bad loss against Denver, right? Like, to me, that was a really bad loss, and that should leave a bitter taste. So what I'm just most interested in is if they bounce back and they beat up on a team that on paper they says that you should beat up on them, then this Cowboys team is for real. If they struggle in this game, I'm going to have more doubts than just what their record says. So that's what I'm looking at. Lou, what are you looking at?
I'll go real quick. I'm actually going to agree with Jason here. It is a Sunday night game for me because the AFC West is the waters are so muddy. Every team has 5 wins. I just want to get a better understanding who's for real, because you can pick apart any of those teams being contenders or pretenders. So I just want to see who's going to start separating themselves, from the pack. And this could be a week that one of those teams, that actually, starts doing that. I want to see if the Chiefs can, beat a good team. So that's one of the things I'm really looking for in that game. Who's legit? Is it going to be the Raiders or the Chiefs? Because it's going to be a big win. Because when you win in divisions, like, you're really winning 2 games. Obviously, you win the one for the record, and then the second one, you're better in your own division too. So that catapults you more too. So I'm going to say that same game too is what Jason's looking at.
All right. Sounds like we're all going to be glued to the television on Sunday night. At least this gives me the excuse, like, to my wife, like, hey, listen, I got to, like, Jason and Lou, like, we're banking on this game. I got to look at it. Like, leave me alone for a little bit. All right. So this is actually my favorite segment that we're about to get into, and I love to pick them. And Jason, just so you know, we didn't start doing pick-ems until like week 6, right? So when we kind of put that into our segment. So Lou, last week you were 7-7. I was 7-7.
I'll take that.
Oh my God, how?
Just taking flukes,
I'll
right?
take that. I thought it was worse than that.
On the season since week 6, Lou, you're 34-22. I'm 32-24. So Jason, you're caught in this mix, and now this is recorded. So I will say how you did next week.
Perfect.
To our millions of listeners.
Here we go.
All right. So just rapid fire, right? So Thursday night, we got Baltimore at Miami.
Ravens.
Sunday, 1:00 game, Atlanta at Dallas. We just talked about it.
Dallas.
I'm going Dallas.
I'm going Dallas too.
Dan Quinn revenge game.
Yeah. Absolutely. New Orleans at Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Give me Tennessee.
I'm gonna go New Orleans. Jason, one thing you'll know about me is I'm like that guy that just likes to make up ground every once in a while. But sometimes I just look at momentum, right? And like Tennessee's coming off of like a really impressive win against a real team that I promise you they probably didn't anticipate that they were going to win that game. So that usually is a letdown game, in my opinion, right? So I'm going to call this what it is with Trevor Siemian probably as the back and forth. This is a trap game for the Tennessee Titans, and I think they blow it. All right, Jacksonville at Indy all day. Cleveland at New England. Yeah. At New England makes that different. Makes that a little bit different.
Oh, man. Why'd you ask me on Wednesday? I'd love to know if Nick Chubb was going to play. Right now, all right. Give me the Pats.
Okay. I'll check back with you at Twitter on the Chubb update. I'll say, Jason, here's your chance. Nick's not playing. What do you want to do about it?
I don't think he is playing, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I'll stick the Pats either way, though.
Okay. Yeah, I'm taking the Patriots. It's in New England. And I just feel like New England's starting to get on the roll right now.
And they'll give Baker fits. I think that they're going to give him problems on defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is Lou talked about this going into the Pats Chargers game. He said Bill was going to do this, right? Like he just knows how to get it in he makes quarterbacks see ghosts, right? Yeah. Sam Darnold's lives. I'm going Pats in this game too. Bills at Jets.
Bills.
Like you talked about the spread, it was a 13.5, I think. So I think this would make it more interesting. But I'm going Bills.
Yeah,
as a pick 'em.
Yeah, well, we last week both said like, really, is this even a question? And look what Jacksonville did. I want to know if Mike White's playing. No, I'm just kidding. That doesn't change anything. He is. All right, now this is Buffalo all day, in my opinion. Detroit at Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
It's in Pittsburgh. Yeah,
it's in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Tampa Bay at Washington.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
Tampa.
TB12 all day.
Even though Heineke played them good last year.
I was going to say Heineke kind of that was the closest game that they had that entire playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. But this ain't the same Washington football team.
No.
Carolina at Arizona.
Arizona. PJ Walker. Unfortunately, I mean, nice story, but
yeah. Cardinals. I don't care if Kyler plays or not. This
or
is
Cole, right?
Yeah. Colt McCoy's a better quarterback than people give him credit for. He's he's the perfect backup quarterback to have.
His name is Colt. How tough is that?
From Texas. You know what I mean? Like,
jeez.
Seriously. All right, Vikings at Chargers.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, give me the Vikings.
It has to be the Vikings. Chargers a little their secondary is still banged up. And guess what? They don't have a run defense. And guess who's coming in to LA?
Well, is he going to play?
Dalvin Cook? I mean, if this was a couple of weeks back, maybe he wouldn't, but they still got to cipher out some of that stuff. I can't picture him getting suspended quite yet.
Yeah. Or just put out like exempt list. I'm not saying suspended, or just what is.
When was the last time the NFL moved that quick?
That's true too.
Yeah, it's Vikings.
Kareem Hunt probably. Kareem Hunt, like it was like 20 minutes after the video came out. They were like, "All right, that's it."
I gotta go.
I mean, I know this is a video.
You said after the video came
out. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going opposite. I'm on this Chargers bandwagon, baby, and I've been since I think I was more of a fan to start the season of these Chargers than Lou was, so I'm gonna stay on it.
They have done me dirty, bro.
I know. Eagles at Broncos.
Broncos.
Yeah, I got Broncos too.
I go Eagles.
Okay, there we go. You're making up ground. Sea Chickens at the Pack.
But are both of those guys going to play? Russell's going to play, right?
I think Russell's playing. Yeah,
all
dude,
right,
come
Russell's
on. Did you
playing.
see his cheesy ass video of like, check
he's
out,
playing.
I broke a finger, and like we got to have all these videos. He's so corny, but he's so good. I can't stand it.
I wish we know if Odell was going to sign there and play. That might have helped out a little bit. You know what? If Rodgers plays, then it's Green Bay. Either way, you know what? I mean, if Rodgers doesn't play, they're not going to win this game. But if Rodgers plays, they're going to win it. I think.
Right. So we'll put that caveat. Rodgers plays, you're with Green Bay. If not, you're Seattle. I'm of the same boats, but I'll just come out and pick Green Bay, assuming that he's playing, considering that they only fined him $14,000 for basically cheating protocols. And CeeDee
Lamb got 20 bands for not tucking in his jersey. Way to go. Yeah. Way to go, NFL.
Yeah, I mean, can we get something right in this league? Jeez, my God.
By the way, I'm going Green Bay too.
Okay. Chiefs, Raiders. I already came out and said I'm picking the Raiders in this game.
Yeah, I got the Raiders too, I think.
I'll go Chiefs.
Okay. Do we
Rams.
even have to ask?
Rams.
So, Jason, something you said earlier made me laugh tremendously. Actually, it was something you tweeted about, like, the only way the 49ers win this game is if the Rams plane literally physically does not take off and don't make it to. But wouldn't it be the NFL and wouldn't it be the 49ers?
You guys have their number.
If they want bro, we have
who was their quarterback?
Jared Goff, Sean McVay, Rams number. The Matthew Stafford Rams are a totally different beast. And Matthew Stafford is who I want as our quarterback.
Right. And here's the thing. It would be so 49ers to win this game because the one thing that we know about the 49ers this year is that we know nothing at all. Nothing. But look, there would have been more of a chance to win this game if the Rams didn't get washed out on Sunday Night Football. They're angry. They're tired of it. And Matthew Stafford is here to inflict some pain. That secondary, if they had trouble covering, and now it's getting worse. Now Tavon Wilson's not going to be there in the safety position. Now who's going to be there? It's not going to be pretty. I'd love to be wrong, but I got the Rams.
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's Rams all day.
This is it.
Although I did wear my Shanahan hat because I don't know if you noticed, but Kyle brought back the Shanahan hat this past week, probably trying to instill some of those 2019 vibes. But
didn't he bring it back? He brought it back the week before too. I was like, here we go. Right. Or was it I think it was the Sunday Night Football game. I was like, oh, there it is. I was like, it's back
against Indy, yeah. And then it just poured all over us. I liked him better without the hat, to be honest with you. When he showed up on the sideline, no hat.
Yeah, and I like the what's it called, the Griswold one with the scripture on it, the old school one, the white one. I like that one. That one's nice.
He's fresh. That's one thing I love about Kyle is he's got style. He's fresh on that sideline.
Yeah, they're calling them Chip Kelly and Yeezys now.
I know. And unfortunately, that's probably like not really the wildest statement in the entire world. So, Jason, I know you're a big fantasy guy. So I'm going to allow you to lead us. So I call this my fantasy sleeper of the week. And it's not necessarily a sleeper, but it's not like start Dalvin Cook against the LA Chargers.
That's
right?
Easy.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, so who's a name that's off the radar a little bit? If you got some injuries, if you got some buys, like player, position, tell me and why.
Running back Ernest Johnson. If Nick Chubb is not going to be there, Demetric Felton is also on the COVID list as well. It would literally be Ernest Johnson and two fullbacks. If you had a chance to watch him against Denver, he was incredible. The kid was waiting his entire life for this shot. I believe there's a stat where it's Nick Chubb has the most missed tackles, and he's right behind him somehow. So Ernest Johnson, if you have a chance, I understand it's against the Patriots. You know what Cleveland wants to do. If you're looking for a spot start and looking to steal a win this week, and he hasn't been picked up on your waiver wire, go pick him up because I wouldn't assume that Nick Chubb is going to be ready to go on Sunday.
Yeah, well, I'm screwed if Nick Chubb doesn't go, but that's another story. So, Lou, who you got?
I did have Ernest Johnson, but I'll switch it up. I'll say, what about Le'Veon Bell? If things get out of hand in Miami, I can envision Bell getting some garbage carries and stats. He's coming off a game where he had 48 yards and a touchdown. I can totally see that that's his floor going against Miami. Things starting getting out of hand.
Yeah, what I always say about fantasy, it's not about who wins or loses the football game. It's about game flow, right? And garbage time points still count in fantasy football, and they're my favorite kind of points.
I love me some dirty points. Yeah.
No doubt about it.
I can give you one more. So if we don't have to like go with the Ernest Johnson one too, Devin Singletary. If Zach Moss is going to miss this game, I mean, he's the guy who is going to be the receiving back as well. The only problem that I would have is I would have no problem firing up as an RB2 in PPR because he does catch passes. It's just that Josh Allen's the goal line back, so you can't really expect those things. But if he's going to be the main act there with Matt Breida, our old friend, behind him, then I'd love to start Devin Singletary in this game because it looks like Buffalo is going to exact their revenge on the Jets from last week.
Yeah, I had Singletary. I think so. It's funny because we're all staying running backs. I would throw out another name here, just real quick, Hunter Renfrow, because I always try to find somebody that plays against this Kansas City Chiefs.
That was my boy last week. I said
defense because they're so porous, and Bryan Edwards is doing nothing. Darren Waller has in spurts has been having big games. Like Hunter Renfrow is like Mr. Reliable for Derek Carr right now. But I'm going running back as well, and I'm going Jordan Howard. So why am I going Jordan Howard? Because I might have to play this man because that's how banged up my running backs are right now. Honestly, and up until last week, I forgot this man was in the NFL. It's been a while since you've heard his name. He's definitely taking over in Philly, right? Like in my opinion, just based on momentum. And, the fantasy facts are Denver's allowing the third most fantasy points to running backs, right? So I think both these teams are going to look to run the ball. Pass offenses aren't great. So if you're in a spot like I am, Jordan Howard might be the plug at this moment in time. So
it feels icky, but you could steal a win this week and get some production from him, and that's the name of the game. One wide receiver name that I will throw out, he is playing Thursday night. If you haven't picked him up, Rashawn Bateman. I understand everybody's all over Hollywood Brown, but right now his targets are going up, and he is second in the team in yardage and third in targets, I believe, because Mark Andrews is having such an incredible year under the radar. Nobody's talking about it all. But with the leaps that Lamar is taking, Rashawn Bateman was somebody who I loved in this draft class, had no idea how he fell as far as he did, had a vibe of almost like Justin Jefferson fell pretty far, and I didn't really understand why. And I'm not saying that he's comparable to him because he's so good, but I felt like Rashawn Bateman was going to be one of those guys where we look back like, how on earth did you let him fall this far? He's kind of picking it up, and I think that he should have a pretty good week this week. When he can put the game out of hand, so it can go to Lou's pick of Le'Veon Bell salting the game away. But Rashawn Bateman should see enough to get it done.
Yeah, as a Hollywood Brown owner myself, I am nervous about this Rashawn Bateman progression and coming back. Actually, I had a buddy text me tonight who's in a what do you call them? Because I never do them, the dynasty leagues, right? Or the I've actually never done a dynasty fantasy football league. I want to look into that. But I'm more into the auction drafts and like your typical snakes and etc. But he was talking to me about, I was like, bro, you can't get rid of Rashawn Bateman in a trade scenario. Like he's the number one next year. He's the number one beyond that. And if you got him with like a 16th round grade, that's what you have them accounted for. Like you have to hold on to that. That's going to help you win. That's going to make you a playoff team for a couple years. So I knew you were going to be excited about this, Jason, because I know you love fantasy football and I know this was going to be your spot. So that's why I kind of saved the best for last for you. Awesome. Not to sound redundant, man, but again, Lou and I are both super appreciative of you taking this time to be with us tonight. I know you had a busy night. We want to give you some time to get back to your family, at least get some sleep before you're probably at it again tomorrow. Just so you know how we roll, like I'll get some audio out, pretty quickly. And then I spend a little time kind of editing some videos, learning some new skills doing that. So we'll plug that out. If you want to see your handsome face at a later date, we'll tag you in that. But again, just really appreciate you taking the time. Can't thank you enough, man.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And no problem, man. I mean, honestly, talking football and being able to talk anything other than the 49ers for a little while has been a relief. And you guys are very knowledgeable. I had a blast. And I always want to reach out to other content creators and help them out in any way, whether it's advice, whether you want me to come on the show, whatever it is. And I'm just always humbled and honored when anybody ever wants to speak with me anyway, because I always feel like, who the hell am I anyway for anybody to want to, hear from me. But I had a blast, and you guys are doing a great job. Continue, keep it up. Go Chargers and, go Niners, I guess,
I guess. Lou, as I always rely on to you, bring me home, brother. Tell everybody where they can follow us, where they can find us.
Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at WTF Pod NFL.
And I give the plug every week. We're looking to grow that YouTube page. I'm promising newer content, working on my video editing skills, learning this Adobe Suite thing as I'm manipulating through. So I'm honing in on another craft, but that wraps us up for We're Talking Football, our week 9 recap, and we'll see you all next week. Take care.